Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here, talking about more cards from Dragons of Legends, and today we have an amazing card called Wiretap. It's a counter trap, and if you know me, you know that I absolutely adore counter traps. They're so definitive, and they're so difficult to stop, and this is one of the few cards in the game that can actually counter a counter trap, which isn't an easy thing to do. The effect reads, when a trap card is activated, negate that activation, and if you do, return that card to the owner's deck. So, this card is flat out incredible. Like, I almost want to declare that 7 Tools of the Bandit is like an obsolete card, and maybe you should only play it if like you have an ultra rare Metal Raiders edition because it looks so damn cool. But the cards basically do the same thing. So I do feel like it's fair to just stack them up side by side. And you know, first off, they're both spell speed 3, so they negate, you know, counter traps, and they basically have the same exact effect. The difference starts when you realize that Wiretap doesn't cost you 1,000 life points, which would have been irrelevant, that is, until Konami picked up that crack pipe and thought up some shit like Soul Charge. So now it's like, well, fuck that, you know, that's another monster that you could have summoned with Soul Charge and win even harder. That 1,000 life points might actually be a little relevant now. The second thing that sets the two cards apart is Wiretap doesn't actually destroy the trap. It just sends it back to the deck, and I know a lot of people are immediately thinking, well, I don't want my opponent to get their Solemn Warning back. Okay, you do understand that in a Solemn Warning situation, they're not getting that 2,000 life points that they paid back. I mean, they can get that card back by drawing it, which is, since it's limited, highly unlikely and not searchable. I guess what I'm saying is sending cards back to your opponent's deck is not nearly as bad as people might make it out to be. For starters, you have cards like Soul Prisoner or Breakthrough Skill that are commonly played, and for my money, I'd much rather send those cards back to your deck and make you waste a draw phase redrawing them versus simply negating them. They hit your graveyard, and then you can actually trigger them from the graveyard. You also have cards like Gladiator Beast, War Chariot, which, I mean, your opponent can just juggle those every single turn, you know, versus having to, again, redraw them if you send it back to their deck. Even against something like Abyss Sphere, where it's, you know, it's really not that bad sending it back to the deck because they run 3 copies anyway, and it's a searchable card. So it's like, how much of a difference did it actually make? I mean, outside of Solemn Warning and Infernity Barrier, I can't really think of any situations where sending a trap back to your opponent's deck is just like god awful. And then the last thing is, you know, you have to also realize that Primal Origins and the Artifact archetype are both coming out very, very soon. Artifacts are going to be a deck where they're probably going to see a very decent amount of play, and if you're not familiar with their card philosophy of the artifacts, you might want to look it up, because essentially it's a trap card that says, you know, they can special summon an artifact monster, but if this card is destroyed, then they get to blow up any card on your field, and that can be kind of a problem, because if they activate that card and then you 7 Tools it, well, technically you have destroyed their card, and then they will blow up something on your field, and you have now gone neg 1. But if you Wiretap it, it just goes back to the deck, and it's not like a major win or anything like that, but at least you don't lose a card on your field. So, you know, I would say overall, I think that Wiretap is amazing. I think that this is going to be player preference down to the bone. If you just cannot bear the thought of your opponent potentially using Infernity Barrier, Torrential Tribute, or Solemn Warning, you know, 2 times in a duel, then Wiretap may not be for you. But for everybody else, I'm just going to stick with Wiretap. I want my 1,000 life points for Soul Charge, and I mean, I'd rather not have shit like, you know, Breakthrough Skill or Soul Prisoner, especially considering that card stops Veiler from the graveyard. I'd rather not have those cards in the graveyard earlier than, you know, what I have to deal with. So, thank you guys for watching. As always, let me know your thoughts on Wiretap, and yeah, subscribing makes life happy.